You were never meant for a small life. You have bold ideas, audacious dreams, and visions that keep you up at night. But the truth is, big goals don't come with step-by-step instructions, and success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from becoming more. Welcome to Big Goal Energy, a podcast for high-achieving women who are done shrinking, striving, and second-guessing, and are ready to defy reality in pursuit of the life they actually want. I'm your hostess, Bri Seeley, goal architect, subconscious strategist, and your permission slip to want what you want. Join me as we go beyond the surface level success to explore the mindset, identity, and inner work required to bring your biggest, most delulu goals to life. This is your space to be seen, to be expanded, and to remember that you are not alone on this journey. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Big Goal Energy. I am so blessed to be here with two incredible women that I get to call friends and I get to call colleagues and that I have known for a hot second. It's been at least 5 years, if not more. I've gotten to know them in all of our previous iterations of business. We just happened to be on a call a week ago, and all three of us are like, what drove us to create the businesses we created in our 20s and 30s is not what's now driving us in business in our 40s and 50s. And so, what does that look like and what's changed and how are we navigating that process? And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be such a good conversation. So I'm going to let Sarah and Kimmay both introduce themselves to you. If you've been a listener for a while, you've seen Sarah on a previous episode, but I'm going to let them both introduce themselves. And I've asked each of them to also share, what is the thing that really drove you to building your previous versions of business? Kimmay, do you want to kick us off?
Hooray! Was I also on a previous version of this show?
I think it was a different show, which is so funny because as I was just saying the name of the show, I almost had the name of my previous show. And I was like, what are you doing, girl?
Look at these changes you make in your business all the time. I think it's what we do. So hooray. So my name is Kimmay. My company is Hooray Kimmay. Really, the umbrella company is called Hooray Media. And I am an undergarment educator. So I teach people how to choose what to wear over their heart every day and how to use bras and undergarments as a tool of self-love and confidence and body acceptance. But really, the business side of things is that I work mostly with brands to wear and share their product to those folks. And then I also teach bra fitting to global people around the world how to fit with accuracy and empathy. I do that through photo shoots with no airbrushing whatsoever all over the world. I also do a lot of television. So if y'all watch daytime television, you might have seen me. I've been on the Today Show 8 times. Rachel Ray, I was on 10 times. Up in Canada, hey, I was on the Marilyn Dennis 13 times and now on The Good Stuff a couple times. So I love, love, love what I call preaching the bra gospel to everybody because nobody knows how to wear a bra. Nobody was taught this. If I can help people find comfort and confidence in this really sacred part of the body, I think then we're going to have a better world in the end. So that's what I do. The original form of my business, I formed my LLC in 2014. Kind of similar to you, Bri, my business has taken on many forms in this time. The very first version of my business was actually a very behind the scenes job. I was doing marketing for brands, like bra brands, and mostly the ones that I was like, you don't want to be like Victoria's Secret. You don't want to be the brand that's like, look at this, you want to look like her, buy her product. No, I wanted to help brands that were like, actually who you are is amazing. You look great, not the point, but let's help you feel comfortable and confident inside your body. And this undergarment can help you do that. I kind of started from a place of panic because I had no customers and just needed something. And I knew I could do that. I was doing it at my previous job and was really successful at it really quickly, had a lot of great clients and realized real quick, oh, I'm not a behind the scenes person. That right away was why I changed. And I became this more public facing version of who I am now. So the first, I would say, real iteration of the business was really built on me being able to express myself and me being able to be honest about bodies. And the biggest thing I wanted was to be able to travel. I would just pick a place and pitch a bunch of brands and be like, would you pay me to take photos in this glorious place? And then share those photos of your product and tell people to buy that? Would you is that a thing? And they kept saying yes. And so I just kept choosing amazing places in the world to go. And then also, I think I was feeding a little bit of this version of me that wanted to be in front of the camera, that wanted to be on stage, that was like, this is okay and it's safe for me to shine and be bright. Because I had to really fight that story. So there was like a freedom in saying I can show up and shine and be on television and be speaking in front of big crowds and teaching in Paris and New York. And it just felt so glamorous.
Love
I
it.
knew deep down I was still supporting my why, but I didn't care so much about profit. I just wanted the business to be self-sustaining and for me to feel fulfilled. That was it. And it's obviously changed now.
We're gonna get more into that, so I'm very
Yeah,
excited.
I'll hold off.
Okay, Sarah, so a brief introduction and then what drove you to build your previous version of business. And two, I also want to mention, so obviously I'll share my story. I shut my business down last year. So I had to have like a full hard stop. And Kimmay did not do that. Kimmay is just evolving her business. And so Sarah, I don't know if it's like a full stop for you or just an evolution for you. So if you'd add that on as well, that would be helpful.
Hello, my name is Sarah Khan. I am the founder of Niche Strategic, and I help who I call dangerously competent women move from being the backbone of everybody else's success to finally being sought for their own thinking so they can scale their impact. They can build that legacy that they want without working harder, particularly when they get to midlife. And this is a far cry from what I was doing before. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm the reluctant entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur because of necessity. I had been working in corporate for over 20 years, various corporate entities, and I was happy towing the party line, being the girl who, did whatever the job wanted. I was the consummate unicorn. When we moved from Europe back to Canada and I couldn't find a job, that's when I started a consultancy, and I was kind of working behind the scenes in people's businesses with operations and event management. And that then, when I did get a job, I kind of put that as a side hustle. Fast forward 10 years and it became a full-time thing when COVID hit and I had to leave my position for a number of reasons. And then I really fell in love with it. I started the business just doing what I had done in corporate, doing operations, doing the things behind the scenes that helped other people achieve their goals, help other people build their businesses. It was fulfilling because I was making money and I was making people happy. And I was, and we'll touch on it later, but it was so rooted in my identity. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do, that it never occurred to me that I could actually do anything else. Last year in January, I did my TEDx talk, and that's a story in and of itself. But I had such a profound experience, and there was such like an awakening in me after that, because the response that I got from women in the audience when I shared my TEDx talk, I didn't expect it. I went home, I cried for 3 days, and then I decided that the business that I had spent over 10 years building, I just didn't want it anymore. It was not aligned with who I had become, really kind of unbeknownst to myself. Like, I wasn't acknowledging the fact that I had evolved into this entirely different person, or maybe not even an evolution into a different person. I just awakened the person I'd always been when I was able to let go of who everybody told me I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. And there were so many parts of your story that I so deeply resonated with. I'll share quickly. What drove me to start my first business, my fashion business, was really just I want to keep my skills alive, and I'm not living in a place where I can have a job in fashion. Let me just play. Let me just create. Let me just tinker. Like, oh, this person wants me to make a bridesmaid's dress. Cool. This person wants me to make a flower girl dress. Cool. I just got a homecoming dress. And it kind of unfolded that way. Also very, accidental entrepreneur. And then truthfully, starting my coaching business in 2015 was completely from a place of scarcity and scrappiness, which I also want to say for anyone listening to this, I don't necessarily think that there are bad or good reasons to start a business, but I think it's really important to also recognize that what you focus on grows. I completely started my coaching business from a place of scarcity. I had gotten the word from the universe to shut my fashion business down. I didn't have an income. I was applying for jobs and everyone was telling me I was overqualified for everything. I needed money in the door and I didn't really have much of a choice. And then I started looking at the breadcrumbs, and there had been people asking me to help them in this way for a very long time. And I had said no. So I did follow the breadcrumbs, but also I was following them from a place of scarcity. Me having my coaching business for 10 years was a personal journey of me confronting and healing all of the parts of scarcity. And my journey was that I had to shut it down in December 31st, just 6 weeks ago. I signed the paperwork to just like shut it down. I had to shed this old identity of being a struggling entrepreneur, of being an entrepreneur in scarcity. I'm curious to know for the two of you as well, have there been any parts of your identity, and Sarah, you touched on this briefly too, they've been really conscious of being like, well, that has to go, or that can't come with me in the next version of my business? And also kind of related to that, are you guys experiencing any grief with this process? I held a funeral for my business
Wow.
in November of just like really honoring the journey we had been on together and recognizing that it was time for it to pass.
My entire identity from when I was a very little girl was completely dependent on the belief that I was only of value if I was doing something for someone else. I learned at a very young age that I had to be what other people wanted me to be in order to be accepted. If you look at the trajectory of my business and probably even my career, there was a lot of conformity. There was a lot of, I would like to explore. No, you know what? I don't think you should, because that doesn't seem like you. I think you'd be better off doing, oh, okay, I'll do that. There was a lot of that. And even in my business, even when I was doing operations and I had several clients that I worked with long term, and I would express an interest in maybe dabbling in this or dabbling, but you're so good at operations, you should totally stay behind the scenes. And I really, really believed that I was only as good as how good I could make other people look.
Oof.
Say that again. Just like, I want you to just repeat that. And if you're listening, hone in on what Sarah just said.
I truly believe that I was only as good as I could make other people look good.
Okay.
Like if I could make other people look good, then I was a valid human being, right? I don't even remember what the turning point was. I just know that I started to feel this immense heaviness over a period of probably 18 months. I thought more coaching would get rid of it. I thought better marketing would get rid of it. I thought mindset would get rid of it. I thought, better branding would get rid of it. And I'd invested in all of those things only to realize that I hated all of it. And it really took sitting down with myself, and I had to let go of the business. There was a point where I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna just stop posting. I'm gonna stop recording my podcast. I'm gonna stop everything for just like 2 weeks, and then I'll come back to it. And every time the 2 weeks would like come to an end, I'd be like, well, maybe 2 weeks more, until it was like a year. I needed that year to be able to actually say, this has nothing to do with business, Sarah. This has everything to do with you. You outgrew this identity so long ago, but you've been holding on to her because you are terrified of what it means to not be her. And then having to embrace and explore who I was without that identity. I'd only ever experienced that once before. I had spent 10 years in my very early career being an event manager, and I had put on events of all kinds. I had so much joy when I was doing that job. When we moved back here to Canada and there was no longer that level of industry for me, I remember pulling over on the street. I was driving my girl to daycare, and I pulled over and I just sobbed for like 40 minutes because I had to admit to myself that that part of my identity was gone. And I hadn't given myself a chance to do it this time. So I had to take like a year and just be like, okay, who are you when you're not doing things for other people? And this is who we've landed on.
Wow.
Love it. We're going to dive more into that woman. For sure.
I love that story so much. And there's so much about, I think, when we first, like, I was 29 when I started my business. I'm 41 now. So there's things that have changed automatically. But Bri, you reminded me too, like, I first started my business because I was actually working at a bra company. And I had been a bra fitter for many years. And then I ended up like getting recruited by Saks Fifth Avenue, and then recruited by La Perla and mom and pop shop. I then was working like online customer service, and then I was their store manager and trainer, then the marketing manager and marketing director. And not because I went to school for marketing, but because I knew our customer so well. And it was in that job that I started doing content marketing, which was 2011, when blogs and social media were first a thing. And I just loved educating. I loved teaching people, and I knew exactly what people were going to say. But the business was failing, and they didn't have the structure for the job that I had anymore. So they put me back into bra fitting. And at first I was really mad. I remember being in that fitting room, and I had already started doing a little bit on the side. A person who was on, she was a producer for Tim Gunn's Guide to Style, which I had been on 7 years earlier working for La Perla. And she came in, and I was like, hey, do you remember me? And we had this whole conversation. She's like, what are you doing? What are you doing here now? And I said, well, I'm actually thinking of starting my own thing. And it was her who said, then just go do it. Just go. And I was like, what? And she was like, listen, you're not going to take yourself seriously and your clients won't take you seriously if you just don't go and just do this. So I quit my job like a week later. And then a week later to the day, it was like a Wednesday to a Wednesday, my husband lost his job. And then 2 weeks later, I lost my only client. I sort of just started from scratch. And that scarcity mindset that you were talking about, I was just trying to freaking survive. I was like, how can I make some cash and not go back to working for these people? That's really what the impetus was for my first business. But the change really came and the identity changed for me at age 40. I was the person that thought, oh, 40 is not going to matter to me. When I was younger, I saw people turning 40, women especially, turning 40 and being like, oh, my world is over. I'm so over the hill now. I'm so old. And I was like, I don't feel that way. I feel amazing. I feel like it's fine. It's all going to be great. The first 3 months of being 40 were great. I was on the Drew Barrymore show twice. I was doing a photo shoot in France. I had this amazing Parisian client that I was working with. That's the Federation of Lingerie in France. Like, it was so amazing. And I'd booked a keynote speaking job in Spain. I was like, I am good. And in March, we decided to try IVF. And I swear that was the thing that changed things the most for me and changed my perspective. This is a little bit of a trigger warning for infertility here. I'd already been trying to get pregnant for like 5 years at that point. I had also even joined business and entrepreneur groups specifically for mothers because I was like, I'm going to adopt this identity. I'm going to be mom and that will come. And it wasn't coming. And so we thought, okay, let's do this, IVF. Folks out there who are listening who've done IVF or know somebody who has, everybody experiences this so differently. For me personally, it was so intense. It felt like a second job. It felt like I was so booked with doing this thing, physically with my body, emotionally with my soul, mentally with my mind. I was booked. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do what all my coaches have been telling me to do, which is to delegate, hire team, blah, blah, blah. And so I hired OBMs, I hired team members, just like thought I was building up this really strong structure. And I read a book. I'm still actually in the middle of reading it. So don't quote me on how great the rest of it's going to be. She's really popular in the business world, but Stacey Tuschl has a book, a really simple book called Well-Oiled Operations. I remember it struck me like lightning because through that whole process, I was delegating. But what I was actually doing was just outsourcing my anxiety of the business. Sarah, maybe you know this as an operations person. I did not have steady, firm foundations. And I had like 12 revenue streams at one point. I was doing way too many things. I just kept being the yes person. I just kept saying, yes, I can make that happen. Yes, I'll do that. Ooh, that's a great idea. Ooh, let's do this. And I wasn't really finding a steady place. So IVF, we had a transfer. We had one embryo that was viable. And we thought for sure this was going to work out. And it didn't. And this was July. I was broken, like truly broken. I can say this now because it's February in the following year with some spaciousness here that I'm actually very thankful. I don't say that lightly. Infertility and loss and grief were so hard. Like I was very, 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 very upset. But it also kind of forced me to pause. It forced me to slow down and it forced me to only do what was essential. I had to look at my business and be like, what is actually essential here? I at first kind of brought everything just down a little bit. And I realized that wasn't enough. So I took a full break in September. My husband and I went to like a national park. And then I actually ended up doing a solo trip by myself. And in that realized, and this was so humbling, what I've built here is not sustainable. And what I built worked in my 30s and is not going to work in my 40s. I was really holding on to this identity of like boss lady, person who delegates, person who works in her genius and lets everybody else do the other stuff. I'm going to be honest, my ego was a little bit inflated and I was too proud to do what I would have considered essential but not glamorous part of the job. I had to let go of that. I actually had a very hard conversation with my OBM. And at first I was going to hold on to one or two people. And it was actually her who said, I think you should pause completely. And I was like, girl, how am I going to make money? And she was like, I think it will be very good for you to pause completely. I paused everybody, and just allowed myself from basically September through December to just coast, pray, sort things out a little bit. What I was really grieving was this glamorous, big business lady. And I've had a vision from God that I have a giant business. And I was sort of like, how the heck can I get there if I take this pause, if I slow down, if I break everything apart and bring it down to the studs? It's the opposite of progress, right? But I think I'm finding now that's not the case. I think
Yeah.
I'm finding now that the pause and the stopping and the getting back to what's essential and rebuilding the foundations is actually for the next phase of my life, not for my 30s, but for my 40s. Now I'm 41, is what will actually get me to the next step.
Yeah.
So humbling,
No.
holy moly.
It's so interesting. I've had the same thought 2 days in a row from 2 very different conversations, and it just popped up for the second day in a row when you were talking. I honestly think the whole girl boss era that we all came up in business was necessary, maybe, at the time, but also looking back on it, I'm like, man, it really just put these unrealistic
Yeah.
ideas of business into all
You-
of our heads.
Yeah.
Had us build these businesses that were not sustainable, didn't focus on the right things, were not rooted in the identity piece. I feel like that's so much of the deconstruction that I've done. And it reminded me when you were talking, Kimmay, about we had all these ideas about how glamorous and, oh, you just use social media to like blah, 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 which people talk about. And then also teaching us to build businesses in the masculine way that people have built businesses for decades when that's not
Yeah.
how we operate.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're so right. And listen, I loved my girl boss era. I still love pink. I still love a great outfit. Like, I loved it. But I think the identity piece actually started with a previous coach that I'd worked with who really, with this whole motherhood idea, was talking about this matriarch, which doesn't work for everybody because even if you're not a mother, it can still work for you, but it doesn't work for everybody. What I'm really finding in the identity piece for me is allowing myself to bloom and blossom and grow and age and be honest about my capacity. In general, my capacity and my energy has gone down. And I saw that as a giant weakness because all I knew was to do more, go more, build faster, travel more, pitch more, just more. This is coming from somebody who also led women's circles for 6 years straight and understands feminine energy and the work, and waxing and the waning and the rest. Like, I get that, but there was still something missing in my identity that I needed to lay down. I needed to lay down the work was the answer. And sometimes just let myself freaking pause. Like, when I prayed after the infertility, I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do with my business? Just tell me. I'm listening. Just tell me. I kept getting every freaking day, rest. Just rest. I just need you to rest. And that was so counterintuitive, which tons of people talk about how rest is good for you, blah, blah, blah. I knew that logically in my body. It was still ingrained. You will lose. You'll fall behind. You're never going to be able to catch back up. You're wasting your time. The only answer is to do. Don't rest.
This gets me into my next question. I had a moment last year in April of 25 where I was having a conversation with someone and she presented a concept to me that had never landed or registered as being something that was available to me. I thought it was available to all sorts of other women. And it really forced me to kind of sit down and be like, who am I becoming? Who do I want to become? What do I want the next era of my life to include? What do I want to be driven by? What are my priorities? And then from there, what kind of business would the woman I'm becoming build? What the woman had presented to me was this idea of, she said, I help people build exitable businesses. And I was like, excuse me, what? When I say this word to so many other women, they're like, I don't know what that means.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess people don't think of building a business just to sell it or just to exit it. Yeah. They think this is it forever.
Our industry that we're all in, that's not the norm. But
Yeah,
so
you're
many
right. You're so right.
industries, it's like, no, I'm growing this thing so that
Yeah, you're so right.
at the end of 10 years or whatever. I had to start asking myself, okay, if I'm becoming the kind of woman who has an exitable business, what is the business model that aligns with that? And that conversation in April has completely changed the trajectory of my life over the last 10 months. I want to hear from both of you. How have you shifted your business model or your business foundations now with this new understanding of this new identity? And Sarah, what you said before is, I'm only successful if I'm building up other people. Now you're building up yourself more. And I'm just curious to know, how have things shifted for you now that you've re-engineered your identity or like re-tapped into this new vision?
I think everything kind of came to a head last year with the dissolution of the business and the TEDx and blah, 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 blah. Bad client relationships, losing some very close friends, being a lot of money to some coaches who were less than trustworthy. The big shift for me was turning 50 in December and then having a daughter who is about to complete high school and go off to
Wow.
university.
Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. And I also have an 8-year-old. So it's like two worlds. It was really a time of like, first of all, who the actual fuck am I?
Mm-hmm.
And what have I been building? Because one of the things that I remember most clearly was sitting down as my teenager and saying, you got to pick a major, you've got to decide like what you're going to go into, because grade 12, you have to pick all your courses that are going to get you into university. And she was like, Mom, I don't know what I want to do. It was such a departure from my experience because I grew up, my parents basically said, if you're not going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a teacher. And I went, okay. And I didn't know that there were other options for me. As an aside, I did want to be a lawyer, but my mom was like, you will never have a personal life, so be a teacher. So I was like, okay, that's what I did. Everything that I did was geared towards being that thing. For my daughter to say to me, I have no idea what I want to do. And she's been showing an interest in kind of like what I'm doing. And I sat back and I thought, what am I building that I could one day pass on to my kids? Like if that's what they wanted to do. So it's kind of the same idea of like an exitable business, but like, what am I leaving behind? Do I have a viable business if there's no outcome to it, if there's nothing that I'm leaving behind? This idea of legacy started coming up for me. I had been thinking about legacy for a long time. In fact, I'd wanted to talk about it years ago. And I had a coach very specifically say to me, people don't understand legacy, don't talk about that. And I kind of let it drop, but it's always been in the back of my mind. Turning 50 for me was like, okay, you're in like the last third of your life if you're lucky. What are you building? What are you leaving behind? What impact are you making? Because so far, you've just had a business where you were providing a service. That does not scale past you. Doesn't matter how many team members you have. When you stop working, the business dies. You're not making an impact. You are the backbone of other people's brilliance. And you got to stop doing that. It was a real awakening for me in a sense of like, if you want to build something new, it has to be something that can persist after you're gone.
Mm.
Whether it is as a business itself, whether it's my ideas, whether it's something that I create and leave to people. Going back to the teacher thing, I didn't actually teach. It's not what I did when I finally left university. I fell into a lot of other really fun stuff, but I did teach for about 14 years and I did love it. And when I left my career, I thought that that was the end of it. And of course, we hear online all the time, don't teach in your content. People don't like to be taught to. There's rules that we're supposed to follow. One of the things that I have allowed myself to embrace and believe now is I like teaching. My brain works in such a way that I can see the how of a lot of things. And if I can't teach that, then what's the point of seeing it? The business that I'm building now is really going to be around being able to teach concepts so that these women who have spent their whole life like me, propping other people's genius up, can take themselves out of that infrastructure and create something. Because when you're an operator, when you have that proximity to the work, your expertise goes a hell of a lot deeper than a lot of people actually understand. Why can't you take that genius and build something for yourself that isn't dependent on your labor? That was the big thing for me. I don't want what I leave behind to be dependent on anybody's labor. I want it to help them embrace the breadth and depth of their knowledge and their experience, their lived experience, and what they want to create in the world. That's the business that we're building. Mm. Every single day, I have to remind myself, because I still have moments where I wake up and I go, I've got to talk about the mechanics of this. And it's like, no, you're not an operator anymore. Even after the year off and all of that, there is still this default of like, you're an operator, so you have to take clients who want you to do this, or you have to. No, I have 0 clients right now very intentionally, because I'm also having to retrain my entire audience that I don't do that anymore. I refuse to do that anymore. And if that's how you see me, then you need to see me a different way. Right now, in this moment, in February of 2026, that is the work.
Love it.
Ooh, so good. I love that you love being an educator. Me too. That's why I named myself undergarment educator, by the way. Because I love teaching about bras and I love teaching people about their bodies. Bri, can you repeat the question? I got absolutely lost in Sarah's beautiful answer. And I'm like, what are we talking about? What was the answer?
No, it's good. So the question I kind of asked myself was, what kind of business would the woman I'm becoming build?
Love this. Okay. A smart one. I had a really joyous, delicious business in my 30s, and I don't want to lose the joy. I don't want to lose the deliciousness. It was fucking fun to go on television and to travel to Paris every year and to do photo shoots in my underwear in front of the Eiffel Tower. What a dream come true. Thank God for that. And that took way too much precedent in a way that probably I needed, if I'm being completely honest. I don't regret it at all. And now I'm humbling myself to go in and build a really smart business. Actually, it's weird because I was really tempted to throw it all away. And I think, as you two have shown us, sometimes you got to do that. I thought that was the answer. And if I'm being honest, for me personally, I was just overwhelmed with life and grief and the world that we're living in. Hello, hello. It was just too much. I didn't want to be the person that was wearing all the hats anymore. I didn't want to have to worry about steering the ship and having the vision for the business. I didn't have it. I was like, I'm broken. I can't even think about this. So I had applications open to work in Anthropologie's back office. I was like, let me run your influencer program for Beholden, whatever. I was like, I could do this with my eyes closed. I was like, let somebody else worry about steering the ship. I just come in and do this one little piece. Fine. I was searching and looking at all these different things, and I was talking to different people about different options and really just praying about it, like really journaling. And I remember opening up an application and I couldn't even type my own name in. I couldn't get that far. I was like, I can't do this. And I knew that wasn't actually what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, instead of blowing this up or washing this away, what if I brought it down to the studs? And what would it look like if I created a really smart business? The thing is, that vision that I've had of the big business, I think is still holding me. If I didn't have that, I do think I would have stopped. I do think I would have, maybe I'm not supposed to run a business, but I've seen this vision. And Bri, you're the one who prompted me to say, like, those visions are promises from God. Like, that's really what it feels like. So I've seen this vision of me and my team on 2 floors of an all glass building. And inside that, we have a production room where we can film and do whatever we want, shoot whatever we want. And then there's a stadium seating style stage with like a live stream camera. I've seen this. And I think I was so wrapped up in the how, worrying that I would never actually get there, or worried that honestly I didn't have the skills to bring us there, that it wasn't possible. And I've just let that go. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that when I prayed about what to do next, joy did come up, by the way. So it's not just smart. There's joy still has to be part of it.
I mean, your business name is literally hooray.
I
If
know.
there's no joy in
Exactly.
business, what are you even doing?
Exactly. And I will never forget this moment. I was driving in the car and I was praying, which, don't close your eyes and drive, by the way. So like praying with my eyes open. And remember asking God, like, what? And I was actually on my way to New Jersey to go sing with my church. And I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Please just tell me. Do I do this thing in my business? Do I go this way? Should I pivot? Should I do this? What do I do? And the answer I got back was like, listen, the plan I have in general, but especially even just for you, is so big that if you just slightly pivot this way or that way, it's not going to mess up my plan, babe. Like, whatever. And almost felt like this blank check was written to me when he was like, you know what? You can do whatever you want, which I was kind of angry at first. I was like, could you just tell me? Because I'm tired and I don't want to pick. But then was like, but as long as you are doing what brings you joy, you will always be provided for. And I was angry at first. And then I had to go ask myself, well, what does bring me joy? Because at that time when I was grieving, I didn't know. I couldn't access it. Now I'm like, oh, is it actually, I really believe I am worthy and deserving of doing something that just brings me joy. And will that be enough in the world? In the world where we see so much chaos and so much hurt, is it really enough to just show up and do what brings me joy? I'm telling you, like, I've had 1,000 confirmations of yes, from examples of like birds in our lives to Steve Harvey, of all people, who's become like my motivational speaker at the moment. Like, wild. All these examples of people who just stay faithful and continue to go. So it's got to be smart. It's got to be joyful. And then I also think that the woman I'm becoming is building a business that, just as Sarah said, has impact. That's the whole point of having the giant business. And I saw this vision, another vision of me having a cruise ship size business. And I was like, well, that sounds so corporate, sounds so big. I don't even know how to row a rowboat, let alone steer in a cruise ship. Like, no. And I asked back in 2015, why does it have to be so big? The answer I got back was to make big waves. If I'm not making an impact, why? And I think people make impact in all sorts of ways. I do believe that for me personally, doing it through my business and through the work that I'm doing is what I'm meant to do. I believe I have everything I need to do everything God has called me to do right now. And I didn't feel that way before. Getting in and doing my own books for the first time in a freaking 12 years, I never did my own books in my business, has been so illuminating. Getting in and looking at the SOPs myself and doing things myself that I was like, oh, I have an assistant to do that. Very humbling, very rewarding. I hope I'm building a really solid, smart business on a very firm foundation that no matter what direction it goes, it still has that firm, smart foundation. So,
Yeah.
See, you're the kind of visionary that operators love.
well,
So thank
can
you.
I be honest though?
She is now. She wasn't.
I
Now,
was gonna swore. I was gonna say, like, my poor online business managers, if you're listening, forgive me because I kind of threw them in, and then my brain was working so fast with all these different things and just was basically like, keep up. I had this entitlement from, I think, some of my coaches that were like, you know what? It's their job to come in and figure out how to support you because you're the visionary. I just felt like I was way more important. I can admit that now with like such humbleness. I realize how important it is for me to be so clear on what we're doing and how we do it. And I now have 2.5, I say 2.5 because like one of them we don't really do all the time, 2.5 business streams of income, down from 12. Yes. So I've learned I do obviously hope to rebuild a team. If we're going to get to cruise ship size, I got to do that eventually. But I'm just hoping to do it with so much more wisdom and foresight and not just like the gumption that I had before, which again, thank God for that era of my life. But now it's like this slow, steady, smart, wise, impactful woman that I already am, but I'm like stepping more into.
Yeah. So many thoughts about all of this. First off, I want to revisit the visual of if you were in a rowboat in the ocean, the size of waves that you would literally be making versus if you were in a cruise ship on the ocean, the size of the waves. That visual in and of itself is so powerful. It reminds me, I said last week that I was like, the foundation that I had for my business was not the kind of foundation that could hold a skyscraper.
100%.
May and I both lived in New York City. You see the depth that the foundation has to go in to support a business that is that tall. And people talk about it all the time. Trees only grow tall because they have roots.
Yep.
If
100%.
you don't have, and so my business, same thing, did not have the foundation it needed to grow as tall as it needed to go. And to be honest, if we're being really honest, I made myself the foundation.
And oh my God, yes.
When I manifested frozen shoulder and literally could not at all in any area of my life anymore, I was the foundation. I broke. Of course, the business came crumbling down along with it.
Yeah.
Because I had made myself the foundation. And that's one of the other things I'm looking at is how do I build businesses or the nonprofit I run or whatever, where it's not dependent on me. Because if it's dependent on me, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
If it is dependent on my time, my capacity, it is going to fail, period, because I'm limited in those areas. And again, if frozen shoulder taught me anything, it's that I cannot carry it all.
And also, like, what is the foundation made out of, too? So, like, we can make a foundation of a house out of wood, which is sturdy, but then skyscrapers, you cannot make that foundation out of wood. So it's both how deep does it go, and then how many beams are you using, and also, like, what's the material, like, what are they made out of?
Yeah.
Both of you, by the way, talk about how we can take ourselves out of the business and how it's not so dependent on us. I'm still figuring out how to do that over here. I'm gonna be really honest. Like, I'm still in this process. And that's what I mean about going slow and being steady. Talk to me in a year, I might be in a totally different place. But right now, I'm still figuring out with a personal brand how to pull myself out of the process. There's some part of the revenue streams and parts of it that I can definitely see, oh, right, I can pull myself out of this part, or I can make this easier, especially the course that I have. But when I asked a financial person about should I put all of my attention on this course instead of the custom content that I'm creating for brands, which is me, she said no. And I was floored. But it was because she was like, that is only accounting for about 10% of your business income right now. And the other is accounting for about 70%. So she was like, if you just slide everything over there and try to catch up without actually building that up to replace and only spending 10% of your time on it right now. And here was the biggie, refining the process of the thing that is bringing in 70%. So she was like, if the pitching process is too long, it's taking you forever to do, how can you get it down to 10 minutes? If you only want to work X amount of hours per week and you got to get all this done in that time, what is it that you need to do? Is it to bring on people? Is it to strengthen up your systems? Is it to let go of these other things that you were doing that are no longer actually serving and supporting you? Like really hard questions of sandpapering instead of bulldozing. And I was like, holy smokes, I never thought of it that way. So I'm still in that process, y'all. If you figure out how to do it, please let me know because I'm not there.
Those are the questions that we don't ask ourselves. They're not. The importance of being in the inquiry of those questions, I think, is almost more important than the answers to the questions. And
Yeah,
so
amen.
kudos for slowing down and actually doing that work. The other thing is I'm going to text you later because I actually had a vision of something, a potential revenue stream for your business while you were talking earlier, like
Oh my
early.
God, amazing. And I'm going to add in another one. Great. No, I'm kidding.
It's a bit of a refinement. So I'll
Okay, refining. Yes, I love the refining. Great.
This has been incredible. I've had so many ahas. I want to just do some lightning rounds. There's a ton more questions I want to ask, and I want to ask them all. Let's do like quick lightning answers for each of these. What did you tolerate in your business before that you are no longer tolerating in this new season of business?
People hiring me to tell them what to do and then not listening to me. Preach.
Amazing. I would say high revenue, but low profit.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
And I think mine of what I'm building is something that doesn't require my woman power to maintain.
Yeah.
What is the most important thing for success to feel like in this season of your life?
No more success at any cost.
Love that. I have a habit of planting a seed, watering it, but then if it doesn't grow fast enough, digging it up and being like, wait, working. So just like trusting that it's all happening and those roots are building.
The word that came up for me was rooted.
Oh, love. Yeah.
So we talked earlier what fueled you to start your previous business. What do you feel like is your current fuel? What's currently fueling your vision, your dreams, your business right now?
Impact, legacy, and betting on myself.
Yeah. Deeply, almost irrational trust that we have our children coming and that my husband and I we are really worthy of the life of our dreams. It was a belief I held for a long time that I wasn't worthy of like that big, bold, beautiful vision. And now I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I can have my own TV show. There's a little bit of YOLO in there too, you know?
We're going to reference this moment right here when Kimmay has her own TV show and Sarah and I are on as guests together. We're going to be like, remember that one time in 2026 when we talked?
Amazing. I've been talking about having my own TV show forever. If I look back in all my old journals, I've talked about it forever. So I think I'm just sort of like, what am I waiting on? It's like that YOLO, you know? And sometimes, listen, things do need to wait, but I feel this beautiful pressure to do it. Just go, you know?
So good. And for me right now, what's currently fueling me is I've started studying Kabbalah spontaneously in a really beautiful way. And it's a lot of things that I've talked about for a very long time, but I'm finding a new relationship with them. And so faith, which is a word that I've had tattooed on me since 2010, maybe. I feel like my only job right now to fuel what I'm here to build is to make sure my container is strong enough and big enough to hold that light. And like, that's the only thing right now that I'm really pouring into, and miracles are happening in a really beautiful way. Okay. What is the biggest priority in building your business right now?
It's weird, but I'm going to say what you just said, which is faith. I do not go a day without praying in the morning. Like, God's my business partner, just to be really clear. Like, praying in the morning and then working towards what I hear and what I know I'm meant to do. Because all the other stuff, like the learning and the foundations and the stuff I'm talking about, the bookkeeping, like that will all come. I think the faith is the part that I am top priority.
Love it.
I kind of said it, but the biggest priority right now is that anything I do needs to honor, it's a theme that's been coming up a lot, but needs to honor my intellect and my experience. I've had so many experiences, particularly in the last 5 years, where people have hired me for my smarts, for my genius, and then turned around and said no, because it wasn't, sexy enough or exciting enough. I'm very grounded and very rooted in your business is subject to the laws of business, the same way you're subject to the laws of gravity. So if you're hiring me for a thing, you're not going to actually let me do the thing, then I don't need to be here.
She's
I
out.
need somebody else.
She's out.
I'm out.
Yes.
And for me right now, my biggest priority in building a business is me. That may sound very selfish, but like Sarah already said, gone are the days where I am sacrificing myself for my clients or sacrificing myself for $1. No, abso-fucking-lutely not. If it's not good for me, it is not good for anyone else. Period.
Love that.
Finish this statement. At this stage of my life, success must include.
At this stage in my life, my business and my success absolutely have to include my reality. that is something I have struggled with. I have a very specific reality, my lived experience, the stuff that I deal, and everybody does. But I've always worked or built my business around what I thought it should be and how I should be showing up versus, you know what, you can't today because. So it's gotta include the reality of my life.
I love
It's gotta make space for that.
I
Will
love
you
that.
Thank you. Kimmay?
I would say I'm still defining this, but at this stage in my life, my success has to include my faith, my integrity, but also like my rest. I think I have to be honest about my capacity.
And for me, at this stage of my life, success must include freedom is the word that's coming up for me right now. Final question. As we're all kind of like either rebuilding or reconfiguring, knowing what you know now, after decades of business, what are you committed to never doing again?
Well, it's kind of a theme with me. I am committed to never letting anyone tell me what I'm capable of doing or what I should do ever again.
Beautiful.
I'm committed to never skipping the hard stuff because it's uncomfortable or tedious if it's going to result in the strength of the business.
And I am committed to never again. What's coming up for me? I feel like I'm being a broken record right now, but I'm just going to say it. I'm committed to never again putting myself in second. I'm committed to never again pushing myself, my body, my mind, my capacity to the point where it literally is breaking me. Because what's the point? What's the point? And I get we have to have contrast. I needed to manifest frozen shoulder to get to this point. And I can honor that and respect that. And also say, if I ever have frozen shoulder again in my life, I'm done. I quit. I'm out. I'm out. Send me out to pasture. I'm done. So
it's no fun. I've had it. It's no fun.
It's so painful. I didn't know how painful.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's going to be.
It's a menopause symptom, which we won't even get into. It's, yeah.
Really?
And here
That's right. Ugh.
Yeah, no, I've started on some other things and changing my diet and supplements and like all sorts of, but then also too, like doing the emotional work to figure out why is this physical manifestation, like what's the energy behind the physical manifestation of this thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So, I just want to thank you both. Like I said, I have known both of you for a long ass time, and I'm just so grateful to have you both in my life and in our lives because you both know each other as well. And it's been really great just to reconnect with both of you recently after some hiatus time. I just really appreciate both of you and your journeys and your experiences, and thank you so much for just sharing everything with us today.
Hooray! This was amazing. I'm so glad to reconnect with everybody. And also, if anyone wants to come say hi, I am that weirdo that's like, yes, please come actually send me a DM. Be like, I heard you on the podcast. So come over to Hooray Kimmay, which is HURRAYKIMMAY on Instagram.
Thank you for that reminder. Sarah, where do we find you as well?
The best place to find me right now is Substack or Instagram. You can find me at Sarah Con Out Loud.
I don't think I'm on your Substack. I need to be on your Substack.
Get on the stack, girl.
I am loving Substack lately.
People there are just so chill and so wonderful. And it's like, oh, I can just show up and be, and it's fine. And it's great. I love it.
And I have to say, and maybe it's only because it's the people that I'm following on Substack, but I haven't read any ChatGPT shit like slop on Substack. Like people are actually
it's
writing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's for writers, which is great.
I can't even be
really
on social media anymore, y'all, without being like, you wrote that on ChatGPT. Like that's every single time I'm on LinkedIn, I'll be like, God, even the comments. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all AI comments.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Love you both.
Thank you. Bye.
If this episode lit something up in you, share it. Text it to a friend, post it to your stories, or leave a review because Big Goal Energy is meant to be felt far and wide. And if you're ready to go deeper, explore the tools, hypnosis sessions, and support because your vision deserves more than hustle, join us on the Big Goal Energy app by visiting your app store and typing in Big Goal Energy. Your vision, your goals deserve alignment, ease, and your fullest self behind them. Until next time, trust yourself, dream bigger, and never forget, you are here for greatness.